Thank you for joining us for this session of the Cafe Collective Committee presentation. My name is Madeline, and first off, I wanted to thank our sponsors for this session and for the entire conference this year. Special mahalo to our co-sponsor, the Hawaii Department of Agriculture, and then of course our platinum sponsors, Monarch Coffee, Savor Brands, Greenwell Farms, and Tricor Braun. In our gold, we have Satake, Kona Hills, and Rural Crop Insurance Services. In our silver, sponsors Green Flash Coffee and Maui Grown Coffee Distributors. Just a quick reminder that our next session for the conference begins at 1:45 p.m., which are the election results for the HCA board elections. These will be presented by Tom Greenwell, who is the nominating committee chair. Voting is currently closed, so we hope you got those ballots in on time. Additionally, don't forget to tune in later today at 5 p.m. for the HCA 12th statewide cupping competition announcements and results, which will be presented by Britton Horn of Pacific Coffee Research. Now to introduce this session, it is David and I who are going to be presenting and speaking with you all today. David Hall is a Maui-based coffee educator, owner of Small Kind Coffee Consulting, and current Maui Coffee Association board member. He specializes in cafe and roasting operations and holds a Q Grader certification. David sees a burgeoning future for the Hawaii coffee industry and believes that through the HCA Cafe Committee, relationships will be developed and furthered between those who brew and serve coffee with those that grow and process it. I am also the co-presenter for this, and I am the co-owner of Pacific Coffee Research in Kailua, Kona. My career, it has been very winding, and it's led me all over the West Coast here in Hawaii as well, and across the ocean to Australia, Southeast Asia, back across to Central America, and here again in Hawaii. I am a trainer, and I provide Q Arabica grading services for our local coffee producer community. I'm also a community coordinator, actually now the Hawaii regional coordinator for this Specialty Coffee Association's US chapter. This year, that is a new designation for Hawaii as our own region on that chapter, which is awesome. And so I'm proud to always be representing the Hawaii coffee community there and for our national voice, and then here as well with the new Cafe Collective Committee. I'm now going to hand it over to David to kind of get us started and talking about what this committee is, what we hope to accomplish, why we decided to do this, and who else is involved, and possibly how others can be involved as well. David, go ahead.
Thanks, Madeline. I'm going to shut this door real quick. It's a little loud. So as Madeline was saying, her involvement in the SCA was really inspirational to me to reach out about this idea, the Cafe Collective Committee. I was a part of the Specialty Coffee Association on the mainland my first 5 years or so in coffee. And after moving to Hawaii, I was unsure of a similar group until I heard about the HCA. So I wanted to do something on Maui, where I'm from, specific to the island. But after talking to Madeline about her involvement with the SCA, I asked how she's involved and what kind of structure they have. And then she said that she was considering something the same, but for Hawaii Island. So we got together and we set up the Cafe Collective Committee, just in its origins, kind of stealing ideas from the SCA, but also including a lot of things that we would like to see specifically here in Hawaii. It is now consisting of 8 members on the committee, 2 on each island. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to any one of these 8 people. We wanted to make sure each island was represented, and a few people holding different positions were represented on each island. That way, if someone who is not involved with the HCA has a question, if one of the representatives on the island doesn't have an answer or has a further question, they can reach out to maybe the other person or even someone else on the committee. But it's on Kauai, Fred Cowell and Ben Fitt, Oahu, Julie Burden and Ross Uehara, Tilton, sorry if I mispronounced your last name. And then on Maui, Dave Gridley and myself. In Hawaii Island, Madeline and Kelly from Big Island Coffee Roasters. And like I said a little bit earlier, the mission was just to connect all of the baristas and cafe people, whether it's managers or roasters, owners, anybody that we saw not as represented in the HCA to one another, because we've both been to events on our own islands that like latte art throwdowns or signature beverage competitions or something like that. And we saw people who were involved with that, and we saw that they weren't as connected with the HCA. So if we could plug them into the HCA and then give them more of the educational opportunities the HCA has, that's the whole mission. One other thing I guess to mention is including those people and connecting them with the members of the HCA already is another big aspect of it, which you can see here. We want to be able to empower these baristas to show them what opportunities they might not see from their cafe perspective. I know myself as a barista, 10 years ago, I had no idea I could do this for a living. So it took a lot of going down the rabbit trail, whether it was reading coffee articles or asking friends or finding a mentor within my company or even outside to give me a perspective on how global the coffee industry is. But I had to start out small and then keep going back and back and back. And a lot of baristas don't have that perspective of the coffee industry. So we wanted to show them what they may be interested in now, like events and stuff they're stoked about, but then what other things in the industry there are for them to do. Like we were saying earlier, we want to give them opportunities to learn more, to build that camaraderie between all the islands, to give them opportunities to express that knowledge, and then talk about concerns of theirs within the industry. Maybe like myself, when I was a young barista, they don't know about those opportunities, and we can give them a space to talk about that, to say, hey, you know what? I really want to do this for the rest of my life, but I can't really picture it within my current position. So is there something more I can do? Is there something like a lateral move I can make to keep doing this? Or maybe they want to know about like leadership goals or something to help them learn how to not just make coffee in a cafe, but lead other people to maybe they open their own shop in the future or start their own farm. We also want to, or at least for me on Maui, my goal is to tell a lot of the people here about all the great coffee that I get to try from farmers in the Maui Coffee Association, because there are not a lot of farms on Maui, but all of them have good coffee. So I want these baristas to know that even if they don't know what's in their cup, it's probably good, better than they think. And then if they don't think that it's very good, there are other really good coffees out there, and I can kind of point them towards either a farmer's market, someone's website, a different cafe, something like that. We really want to collect information about how people are operating within their positions in a cafe or a roaster, retailer, something like that, and see if we're all doing something that works for us. Maybe it works for someone else, just like how I know local farmers on Maui talk about processing and how they may be doing something really exciting or something that didn't work, especially with coffee leaf rust and CBB. There's a lot of information handed around about how to manage that and how to get rid of that. And we want to do something similar with retail, where maybe a shop sources a certain biodegradable cup that's really cost effective for them, but another cafe is getting something from a vendor that it's a little pricier, the shipment times are pretty long. It could benefit them to have, the same kind of cup. They could use their own stamp, make it personal to them, something like that. But creating that network, that communication, that openness between all these different places that serve awesome coffee is really important to us. We went through a phase, we had to reach out to the board to ask what kind of structure would work for including this. Originally, we thought it would be kind of like a guild, like the Specialty Coffee Association has. Like they have barista, roasters, tech guild now, stuff like that. And the way it worked out is we are a subcommittee, and we have those 8 people who are the coordinators on each island. We will meet monthly with the HCA board, kind of tell them what we're doing. If there are any exciting events that we want to do on a certain island, we'll talk to them about that. And then as far as membership goes, it would fall under that base HCA membership of $50 a year. Some of the benefits that we want to work, or that we are working towards, are more online resources. Say there are like a seed to cup PDF we could put together if a barista's never been to a farm, or a roaster doesn't know there's coffee growing around the corner from them, and show them how that process works, how time consuming it is, how expensive it is, and how they're just a really important part of this whole supply chain. We also want to include stuff about water quality, if your water is too soft or too hard, it might make your coffee not taste as well. Or if you're just really excited about making coffee at home, maybe we'll give you some info on how to make an AeroPress and how that's different from a Chemex, something like that. Even roasting stuff, really any information we can come up with, we really want to start disseminating, but via an online platform. And we really, in the future, when more coffee conferences are going on the mainland or here, we want to be able to give financial assistance to baristas who wouldn't normally be able to go. And then a big idea we had was, if we have a network of all these different participating members, that we could give benefits such as, a free cup of coffee at this cafe, or maybe a discount once a month at a certain roaster, something like that, to really keep building that camaraderie and appreciation for all the different perspectives these companies and we all have on coffee, not just Hawaiian coffee, but coffee as an industry here. And then, since things have been a lot more virtual, we want to come up with ideas for people who maybe not able to travel from island to island. We've talked a lot about signature beverages, where you are given an ingredient list that are all local products to Hawaii, and we'll kind of build the ingredient list and then ship it off and say, come up with something cool, use coffee, and then make sure you write things down so we know what you're doing. If that way we can replicate it and taste it and kind of say, yeah, this one works, this one's the best one, we like that. A lot of those ideas are still in the works for whether we can do a latte art competition virtually. There are a few different platforms we can use, but also things like the cup tasters challenges. Like, if anybody's ever done a triangulation, I've done those virtually, and they were fairly simple. So anything to keep people engaged and reframing their idea of coffee in a way that teaches them something new. Other benefits are virtual coffee meetups, and kind of like a HCH board conference, or a board meeting that they have monthly. We'd like to do something virtually as well. So within each of our islands, we could potentially meet in person depending on people's comfort levels, and then have a camera to be able to talk to everybody on other islands and maybe just talk story. Maybe we have a topic. Maybe it's a lecture from someone who has something really cool they want to talk about and teach everybody. We do want to have it free for the HCA members if it's an event, and then donation-based for other people who want to come in. If they want to be involved, then we can garner their interest and make them a part of the HCA. And say promotion for member-driven events on other islands, we would like to hear from our members what is going on. If they have a latte art throwdown that we don't know about, we could kind of move that up the chain and maybe tell the HCA, hey, can you promote this on Instagram? Or we as committee members can tell everybody and get the word out, so we can do a little bit of free marketing for them. In the future, we'd also like to include an online jobs board for positions that are open throughout the island. I know a few people who've moved not just within the island for different coffee jobs, but within the state. So talking about those opportunities, we want to help baristas take advantage of to keep doing coffee. We want them to see that there are opportunities not just in their community, but all over throughout all the islands. And then we also want to include telling them about maybe national events that they weren't aware of. Maybe they know of the HCA, but not the SCA, or how large they, or how interconnected they are. We think this will create a lot of opportunities for retail workers to connect with different producers within the HCA. I know a few of my friends have coffee from different really specific micro lots and farmers on the islands, but not every cafe has that. And I love good coffee and I love sharing that. So I think it would create more of that for members to hear from their friends, hey, this coffee from so-and-so in Ka'u or so-and-so in Maui is really great. I want, like, you guys should start carrying it at your cafe, something like that. And we really see an enriched community in Hawaii, involving more people and getting more perspectives and more involvement from a lot of different areas we think can only grow the industry here. And it'll also provide us with a greater understanding of all the different people and all the different perspectives. I could see someone bringing a brand new idea to the Hawaii coffee industry that no one's ever thought of before that really takes it to the next level. But anything like that where we can connect people and really kind of capture their interest and passion for coffee and keep it growing is everything we want to do. I think we did put out a brief survey a few months ago trying to gauge interest and see if people would really want to be involved. And we didn't have a lot of responses, but of the responses that we got, we had 11. They were from each island, and everybody on those islands had been to a coffee farm, which I thought was pretty cool. But we had a broad representation of the coffee industry as well, between roasters, production assistants, consultants, retailers, cafe owners, cafe managers, baristas, and equipment technicians. So between all of that and ourselves and the other HCA members, we really can cover the whole length of the supply chain. And even though the majority of the respondents weren't HCA members, it was more or less because they weren't aware that they were eligible. So that's just keeps pointing us towards why the Cafe Collective is what we want to continue pushing, to really tell them you are involved, or you can be involved. It's a nominal fee every year, and you'll just be kind of linked in with all the other like-minded coffee professionals throughout all the islands. Everybody that responded said that that's pretty much how everyone responded. They wanted to know more about coffee and get involved with other people throughout the islands, but they weren't aware that they could, or that there was a group that did such a thing. So if you are represented within one of those kind of positions that are listed right here, Madeline posted the survey link in the chat box. Feel free to fill it out. We want to hear from you if this is something you're interested in joining. Maybe you're already a member and you do fall into one of these categories and you still want to get involved. Let us know what you do, who you are, and maybe in what way you could be involved, or things that you want to know from this perspective.
Yeah, thank you, David. We covered a lot of information here, but the gist is that this committee was created to address this kind of gap in participation of coffee professionals within Hawaii through the Hawaii Coffee Association. And we wanted to create a very obvious welcome to those folks so that it is recognizable that the Hawaii Coffee Association is a space where we want to have folks from the entire coffee industry involved and participating in conversations and events and bringing up new ideas and things. And so it's something that we just felt was necessary to create to make that very obvious. And that's what we're working toward doing. That survey would be great if you could distribute as well to any cafes or baristas who you might know who are not involved with HCA. We're really trying to figure out why maybe folks who know of HCA are not a member or not involved. And, we have our assumptions that it is kind of based on this unawareness of the fact that they could be a member of HCA. And so, yeah, just being very intentional with welcoming them into this space and into these conversations. And we do plan on working toward, having these different events and things, whether that's virtually or in person, and however we can make that happen, just to continue to build that community here and build it through HCA and continue to provide opportunities for this connection of the entire coffee industry within this state. It is interesting to me whenever I do meet a barista in Hawaii who hasn't been to a coffee farm before or doesn't know the name of a coffee producer. And it just shows us that there needs to be some more effort in connecting those two communities together, because they can learn so much from each other. The same thing goes with coffee producers who haven't been to a local cafe before, or they haven't tasted these different coffees, maybe locally grown coffees that are being served at different cafes. And that's also a wonderful opportunity for coffee producers to have an understanding of the cafe side and the barista side. And also, what an awesome opportunity to go to a cafe and maybe taste coffees from a couple different farms in your area and see how other people are presenting those coffees and see what that maybe weird processing method that somebody did, what does that end up tasting like as an espresso based beverage or as a pour over or however it might be presented in a cafe. So we really just want to build that bridge and build a greater connection between these two communities, and then just bring a greater voice to the cafe side of the industry, to the Hawaii Coffee Association. And so, as David said, it's not just baristas, but we're looking at cafe owners, cafe managers, roasters, just folks who are really looking at the retail side, and folks who are having those direct conversations with customers as well. Because I think one of the things that we talked about a lot was the need to ensure that the folks who are having those conversations with customers have a good understanding of the industry, because they are the ones who are having the most conversations with customers on a daily basis, and they need to be kind of tuned in to the information to better communicate answers for questions. And I think the most common question for baristas in Hawaii is, why is Hawaii coffee priced the way it is? And most baristas don't have a good answer for that, unfortunately, and it's an easy answer, and we just need to build a greater bridge of communication for us to get that message across through the entire supply chain. That's basically all we have. We just wanted to introduce ourselves to everyone and see if there are any questions. Again, we were really interested in gathering some information on folks. So if you do have the time to take that survey or share it with others in your community, in your business, we would love to see some more responses there. But if I don't see any questions coming through here, we might end this one soon. Might end this one a little bit early. And I'll give it another minute here just to see if anybody has anything they wanted to share or ask.
I'll add something. You've already mentioned it in a different way, but for myself and coming to Maui specifically from the mainland, placing myself as a consultant was really it was unintentional because I worked at a brewery and I still wanted to be involved in coffee, but I chose to do it that way instead of any other way, because when I worked on the mainland, and I started seeking my Q grader certification, I was told by a lot of my friends at importing companies that a lot of the feedback they received from people who bought their coffee was more or less, we like it or we don't, or if even that much. So I thought that was kind of, that was a missed opportunity for roasters to let people know what they're looking for. But it was also disappointing from a farmer's perspective. I can imagine that, they're not getting any feedback on their livelihood. So I sought out my Q certification so I could give a qualitative objective analysis for one, and then let a farmer know personally what I think as well, so I can keep creating those connections. And I was really close to the consumer side of things, being a roaster, so I could kind of connect that feedback loop. And I think that's the most important part of coffee. For one, it's a connective product. I believe that's why cafes were invented, because people wanted to commune and they just started talking, and everybody gets hyped up on coffee, so those conversations just kept going and going. And now, being in a state that grows coffee, it's even stranger to me that more of those conversations aren't happening. So I really want to keep connecting using my, whether it's a Q grader score or just telling someone I think their coffee is great. I want baristas to know, hey, you can go over here and talk to someone who grows coffee professionally, and let them know what you think and keep that feedback loop going. Let me read Tracy. Tracy Matsumoto asked a question. Do you think this would be a good venue to evaluate the cupping quality of new varieties to get more of a barista and consumer perspective in addition to the grower? I do, because even though I'm a Q grader, I think outside perspectives of how things taste is really important. When I give someone a coffee, I want to provide context for them. So I don't really want to hand them a coffee and say, hey, this is an 82, because that doesn't tell you much. So to a Q grader, they might understand what the score means, but to a barista or, at the end of the day, we all want to sell coffee and we all want consumers to like it. So a consumer might not know what a cupping score is, but they are the best gauge of interest in a product. So yeah, if we had more people closer to the barista or to the consumers, giving their feedback to us of what their customers want, evaluating new varieties would be great, because I can tell you what I think as a Q grader, but I don't necessarily buy your coffee the same way that a customer would, who may or may not know a lot about coffee. So having a venue to put a product, just say, hey, this is coffee, do you like it? I think would be incredible. I could provide a lot of feedback to farmers really quickly. And Miles asked, is this membership open to farmers or is it restricted to downstream professionals? At the moment, Madeline answered him.
Yeah, I just gave a little answer in the chat there. It's not a separate membership of HCA. We just specifically asked if folks would, we basically just said that the associate level membership is what we would ask folks to join the HCA with. For us, the reason around that, and that doesn't mean that they can't join at a different membership level, but for us, we were looking at, just most baristas are paid, $12 an hour. And sometimes looking at the membership cost of any of the higher levels of membership with HCA is not something that they are budgeting for. And so, we just wanted to make it clear that cafe-focused coffee professionals are welcome to join HCA, and the associate level membership is more than enough for them to be involved with these conversations and with the committee if they want to be involved with the committee. And the committee itself, as I said, is geared toward cafe and like retail facing coffee professionals, but there's no restriction on people communicating with each other, anything like that. Just as the HCA board meetings, any member is welcome to sit in on those. So if you're a member of the board, of the HCA, and you are specifically a member of the HCA for the Cafe Collective Committee, then you're welcome to go to those meetings and converse with us and talk to us about anything. And we do, again, want to just build this communication line between growers and baristas and roasters and things like that. So it isn't like a separate membership at all. It is underneath the general association. We just specifically want to make sure that folks know they can join at this associate level membership. Yeah, thanks for asking. And I think that just the more that we can get baristas or anybody in the retail side of the industry involved with what's going on the growing side, that just builds greater understanding, and it builds greater distribution of information. And that means that our entire industry is better educated and better armed with more information. And that is just better for the industry as a whole if we can communicate with each other more effectively and with the customers and the consumers of Hawaii coffees.
Yeah, another reason for me to build this network of people is we all do coffee. We all do it really well, but I often don't have people around me to talk about water activity or moisture content or different processing methods. So having a place to kind of break away from the everyday, making coffee for a living and being able to just talk story and build friendships and be able to talk about roast curves or something, development percentage or something like that to someone who knows what I'm talking about. It may give me a new perspective on coffee that gets me completely re-energized for one, and then also betters myself and my product as well at the same time, or someone else that I can share that information with. So another inspiration to me was finding out friends in Denver were a part of it wasn't official, but there was a little group of roasters who would share coffees with each other and do a production cupping together. So they would say, hey, I just got this brand new coffee from Burundi or something like that, whether it was a new variety or not, or ask for feedback on, hey, I roasted it this way, but I was thinking about doing this instead. And if you're a roaster, you understand it takes a lot of time and for farmers too, it's the same thing. It takes a lot of time and energy to experiment with different roast curves, or trying to project a different outcome for your coffee can be not cost effective too. So having a sample, taking it to a friend saying, hey, what do you think? And having another professional be able to say, hey, maybe you should tweak it here or there, or it tastes good to me, but my customers would want something a little bit different. It could get them to a good informative outcome a lot faster than if they were to do that on their own. And I came from a pretty competitive coffee market on the mainland. So having that like big group together to talk about coffee and everybody, what's it, a rising tide lifts all boats, like that is really encouraging. That's really cool to me.
Yeah, and that was definitely, a big motivating factor for us is building inter-island community, right? I think that we all kind of have been able to build something in our towns, or we have connections on our islands, or even if it's just like our side of the island, but how can we open that up to be more inclusive, or just make that a broader reach essentially, and build a really strong community here. And whether that's sharing information and giving advice about roasting and all of these other things, or how you're brewing a coffee and recipes and stuff, or one thing that David and I talked about a lot is that sometimes we would find out about events on other islands after they happened. And we're like, oh, we wish we knew about that 2 weeks ago. And maybe I would have gone and flown over and done that, participated in that event for 2 days or for the day, or I would have told this other cafe or these other baristas about this thing going on. And so really wanting to just create a little hub and central space for all of these things so that we can just build a stronger community and a stronger industry together to participate in events together and all of that. And this last year has been different. So it was kind of an interesting time, I think, for us to figure out how can we build community when we can't go see each other. And, we've spent the last several months trying to figure out a few ideas here and there. And now that as things are starting to reopen, we might be able to start seeing those in-person events and being able to promote those again when folks feel comfortable to start hosting them again. But yeah, overall, just wanting to make sure that we don't have anybody feel like they're being left out, just because they're not kind of in the loop with what's going on a different island than theirs. So really wanting to foster that space.
I did include the members on the committee in one of the slides, but if you have questions, either reach out to Madeline or I, or if you do remember those representatives on your island, reach out to them and we'll all have some kind of answer for you.
Definitely. Yeah. Are there any other questions? I did also, wanted to remind everyone just that the next sessions the next one is starting at 1:45, and those are the election results for the new HCA board that will be presented by Tom Greenwell. And then at 5 o'clock, we have the HCA 12th statewide cupping competition announcements by Britt Horn of Pacific Coffee Research. And we will be here for those. It will be exciting. And I don't know if there aren't any other questions. I'm going to just say again, a huge mahalo to our sponsors, the co-sponsor being the Hawaii Department of Agriculture, platinum sponsors Monarch Coffee Farm, Savor Brands, Greenwell Farms, and Tricor Braun. Gold sponsors Satake, Kona Hills, Rural Crop Insurance Services, and silver sponsors Green Flash Coffee and Maui Grown Coffee Distributors. Without all of these amazing sponsors, we wouldn't have been able to pull this whole thing off this week. So really, thank you so much for your support and for your contributions. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Let us know if we can help with any ideas, or if you have any ideas that you'd like to share with us and see happen with this committee.
Thank you, everybody.
Aloha.